Baba, everyone. Thank you again, Jeff, for your lovely introduction. Where are you?
Over here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for inviting us, all of you. It's a privilege to come and share our stories. It brings back memories of Baba also for us, you know, when we come and talk to you. So I'll be brief. You must have heard some of my stories. I'll be brief with the introduction part. I was brought up in the trust building where Money used to have our office with my parents till I was 13. We were a joint family system. My uncle Sarosh lived on the side where Bhauji lives, and Adi Senior's family lived where the registration office is now. So I saw Baba at the very early age. I was a toddler, and I used to see him often walking through the trust compound and noticing the first thing that touched my eyes was that he was floating. He wasn't touching the ground. I was a child, and I used to tell my mother, I said, why doesn't he touch the ground? And she would, you know, bypass it and say, oh, you know, you're talking through your hat and all that sort of thing. And, but I noticed this every time. And to my mind's eye, I thought, oh, he's a magician probably. But I knew he was important because he used to go and see my great aunt. And I was longing to know about him. But you know, at that young age, parents don't talk to you about anything really much. And so, as I was growing up, I saw him more often coming to the compound, but I never met him physically till I was 11. And the actual time did come when I was 11, and I used to go to a boarding school because there was no school in Ahmednagar. And fortunately, my parents could afford to send me and my brothers to a boarding school, although it was quite a, you know, difficult task for them for 3 kids. So I used to come home on the holidays, and I used to see my mother, you know, she had pictures of Baba around. She loved Baba a lot. As Shireen said, my father respected Baba. And my uncle Sarosh loved Baba since from the age of 16. And Adi Senior, of course, was all for Baba. So, living in that unit, I heard so much about Baba and I wanted to know about Baba. And the time came when my mother thought I should meet Baba. So, Gulmai had arranged a little meeting gathering for Baba to come to her place. And there were mostly Western women there, and a few Easterners and the local Baba people. And Baba said my mother and I could come. So I was on vacation, and when I heard this, I thought, well, I must look my best for Baba. So the night before, I had no real good curlers then. You know, you had those metal curlers, and I put countless of them in my hair to look nice, so my hair looked nice. And I wanted to look pretty for Baba. So I put these curlers on my head, and they were like, oh, I look like an alien now if I, you know, if anybody took my pictures. But anyway, I couldn't sleep. First and foremost, I was so excited that I was going to see Baba after so many years, and, you know, be in his physical presence. And then, of course, these curlers were annoying me. Anyway, morning came, I took them out, and I was horrified. My hair was a mess. It was like a big powder buff balloon. And I took 20 or 30 minutes watering it down, and I couldn't water it down. And my mother was getting angry. She said, look, Baba wants us to be punctual. And finally I did something, and I, you know, tried to get it down. And we had to be there about 10-15 minutes before Baba came. Because Baba was very, very strict about punctuality. If anybody was late, he was really angry. So we went there about 15 minutes early, and my mother and I sat at the back waiting for Baba to come in. And the rest of the group was there. Baba came in afterwards, and he looked so beautiful. I remember that although I was very shy, didn't like to look him in the face because I felt, oh God, he's going to know everything I'm going to think, I'm going to feel. And so I sort of used to look at his feet and go gradually up, gradually, till when he looked away, then I would look at his face, you know, because I didn't want his eyes to meet mine, because I feel he's going to really suss me out, you know. So anyway, he came in, he sat down on the chair, we greeted him, and, you know, the Westerners asked questions. Ali Senior was reading the board, and it was a short visit, and I kept looking up whenever Baba wasn't looking at our end, you know, just because he looked so radiant and beautiful, and I sort of pictured him all the time, all the past years as I used to see him, you know. He was such a beautiful person. And I really wanted to ask him one day, why didn't he touch the ground? But I never asked him. So anyway, we had this meeting, and I felt so overwhelmed with it. But I was still embarrassed with my hair, because I said, we have to embrace him. Somebody's going to make a remark on my hair, you know. And so my mother got up to greet him, to say goodbye, and I was behind her, and she said to Baba that it was Franey, and he said, yes, I know. And he hugged me, and it just felt so good to be hugged, you know, such warmth, and I don't know, you can't describe it. Anyway, I was glad I met him, and I was wanting to leave because I know I had a feeling somebody was going to make a remark. And I was praying nobody would make a remark, so I was leaving behind my mother. And then suddenly a Western lady touched my hair and said, Baba, who's this child? And so Ali Senior, you know, was told to let, I think it was Elizabeth, let Elizabeth know that who I was. Oh, she's, you know, she's Suna's daughter, Franey, and she's got a lot of traveling to do. And that stuck in my mind, traveling, where am I going, you know, when am I going? I'm in India, it's such a big world, how will I go anywhere? Anyway, so that was my first visit, and I've always, it's still fresh in my mind. You know, it's a visit that, I don't know, stuck forever. And he embraced me with such strength and such love. And as time went on, you know, hearing from my uncle, my mother, and Ali Senior, who I was very close to, they used to talk about Baba. We used to argue a lot too. I used to see Baba during my holidays, because being in a boarding school, I only came to Ahmednagar twice a year. And any time Baba had a function up on the hill for either Mehera's birthday or something he wanted all his Baba Mandali and lovers to come to, we would go to it. And one time, I think I was about 14, and we were invited. It was Mehera's birthday, and Mani was going to perform a skit. She's an amazing person, I mean. But anyway, so we were going to have dinner there and all, and to be in Baba's presence, be in God's presence, like being in heaven, you know. And so all of us who were invited went up the hill, and it was about 4 o'clock. We were invited. Mehera looked beautiful. All the women, we saw the women Mandali first, and then Baba, we saw him. And he looked absolutely a picture, you know, you couldn't describe him. He looked radiant, big cheeks. And that time he had his hair loose, and he had a pink coat on, and sitting on the, you know, up MeherBabaLibrary Hill, if you've all been to the MeherBabaLibrary Hill, on that days. And then, you know, Baba asked everybody, all the guests were asked how they were. Baba never missed one person, you know, he knew everybody. And then we were all sat down and he said, now sit down for entertainment, and Mani did this exceptional skit. Baba used to tell her on the spur of the moment, I want some entertainment. It could be an hour, it could be half an hour, and she had to do something. And she was an amazing woman. And the skit, he just roared with laughter, and you could hear Baba chuckle and, get pink. And to be sitting there watching him and watching the skit, and you think, how lucky you are that you're in the midst of God and, amongst his lovers and himself. And I used to treasure those moments a lot. And then I hated going back to school. So, and then that special time when we had to leave, I had to leave for school the next day. And we said our goodbyes to Baba. My mother said goodbye, and I said my goodbye. And then Baba asked my mother, well, how is Franey doing in school? And how is she? How is her health? And she said, she's all right, but I'm worried about her because she gets tall every time she comes for the holidays, and I've got to get her new clothes. Can't you put a stone on her head to keep her short? So I was embarrassed that my mother said this, I felt really shy and I didn't know what to do, and Baba was grinning lovely, and I said, oh, Baba's going to do something now, what am I going to do? But he didn't get a stone, he put his hand on my head. An electric shock went right on me, and I knew I would never get tall. He really stunted me after that. So my mother was happy, that was okay. And anyway, time went on, I finished school. We used to see Baba as much as I can, during the holidays. I never dreamt that I would be in his family. And then we had to split up the 3 joint families, so Baba was the intermediary. I think if it wasn't him, then we would have clashed like anything, there would have been a war. But anyway, he did it very well, and so each of us got different lodgings. Adi Senior got the trust building, my parents got a supermarket that my father ran afterwards, and my uncle Sarosh got the Sarosh Motor Works, the garage, and the cinema. The cinema was still jointly occupied by the 3 families, Sarosh Cinema. So, anyway, I finished my last 2 years of schooling at the new home, and I was going to college, and as I said, I didn't dream that I would ever marry into Baba's family, or even think of ever coming to the West, although Baba said I would travel, because to me the world was big. I mean, we had to go by boat, took 13 days, So I said, how am I going to go to the West in the first place? Anyway, I think during my last year in school, I used to see my future husband Adi at the trust building, and I must have had a crush on him, I don't know. Anyway, although being an Eastern woman, we used to call anybody older than you anybody even a little older than you, uncle or aunt. So I used to call him uncle. Anyway, and I think we somehow got to know each other well, but things happened. I don't know for what reason Baba makes them happen, but my husband had to marry somebody else in the beginning. For some reason, Baba had chosen that. And it was hard for me, of course, but it was Baba's wish, and I accepted Baba's wish. And he said the right time will come when he'll see about me. So, the right time came 3 years later after Dara was born. And Adi and I married, married in 47. And the wedding was to be at Vilu's, my aunt's. That was one of the conditions. Not Baba, but Vilu had asked Baba that I should get married at my uncle and aunt's place for some reason. Although my parents were disappointed, their only daughter not having a big wedding and all that. But it was, it was okay by me, as long as it's Baba's wish. I would do anything what Baba wanted. So, but Baba was so sweet. I never expected it. The wedding was supposed to be in the evening at my aunt and uncle's place. And I loved my uncle. My uncle Sarosh was like my second father. And he would do anything for me, and he arranged everything very well for the wedding. But the night before, we heard that Adi and I, Adi Senior phoned me up and said, Baba wants you and Adi to come to my office at 9 o'clock in the morning of the wedding day. And I was wondering what was happening. I thought, oh God, something's happening. And Baba says that either there's a change in program or something. Anyway, Adi and I left to go to Adi Senior's office. We were there about 15 minutes early. We waited outside on the veranda for Baba, and in 15 minutes Baba arrived, and he went into Adi Senior's office, and then Adi Senior came to me and said, Franey, Baba wants you. So I went first, and then Baba sat me down by his side, and he took my hand, and he said, you're nervous, aren't you? I said, yes, Baba, I am. And he said, don't be nervous. He said, I'm with you. I'll always be with you. And then he said, played games with me, these games. He made me do all these things. And he just, all that. And he sort of relaxed me, so I felt very relaxed after all that. And he kept holding my hand, and his hand was so strong. He just couldn't believe it. It was this, and it gave me the strength that I needed, because he was there giving it to me. And then he called Adi, and he made Adi sit next to him. So he was in the middle between the two of us. And he took Adi's hand and my hand, he put it on his lap and rested his hand on our hands. And he said, you both have to, he gave us our blessings. And he said, I'm with you always. And I consider that my wedding day, not the evening celebration that was to come. I sort of accepted Baba's wedding as my wedding. And I always think of it in that way, because he blessed the wedding. And to this day, it's so fresh in my mind. And then he hugged me, and he hugged Adi, and then he gave us garlands, put a garland on Adi and myself. And then we had to leave him, and that was sad. Of course, you leave Baba, every time you leave Baba, it's a sad occasion. But then I had my evening wedding, which was something completely catastrophic, because it became a little, paramedic thing, because Katie's younger sister, poor thing, was given so much to drink, so she had food poisoning, alcohol poisoning, I beg your pardon. So everybody forgot pictures, wedding pictures, anything. The couple was completely forgotten. So everybody was attending to the patient. So in a way, it was good, but I had my wedding in the morning. And so that was my wedding day. And since then, in the beginning, I've always been nervous to talk to Baba, but once I became a family member, I was a little bolder. I could talk, I could speak my feelings. But I knew he knew what I wanted to and what I knew, he knew everything. But, and he told me, he said, you always be happy. He said, whatever happens, you've got not to worry, I'm there with you. And I can tell you by experience, he is with everyone who thinks of him and doesn't worry. Because we all go through all kinds of challenges. Being Baba's family, we don't escape them. I've had my share, but you've got to take it with a smile and forget all that, because he does do things that you don't expect him to do in the end. And so life started. My dreams that I was going to Europe hadn't materialized then, but after a few years I felt a little, I didn't have a honeymoon even. So Adi went to Baba one day and said to Baba, but Franey, didn't have a proper wedding or a honeymoon. You're going to Europe in '52 with the women mandali and the men mandali. Why can't she join you? And I'll be with the men mandali. He said, no, that wouldn't be right. He said, you and Franey go ahead to England and we'll meet you in London. Then Shireen, and then Franey can join the women mandali, and then we'll tour Europe. So, Adi and I made our plans to go to England now. With what little money we had a Chevrolet car which Baba had given us as a birthday gift, not a birthday gift, a wedding gift. He also gave us a beautiful Persian carpet, prayer carpet, which Mirji Karkaria, you must know him, he's a very old disciple. He had given to Baba. I think they still have the one. Baba gave us the pair of it. We still have it. My daughter and son-in-law have it. And so we sold our Chevrolet, and what money we could get from that, we bought our cabin berths for the London on the Chuzang piano liner, which had already had a maiden voyage, so we were going on her second voyage. And it wasn't a lot of money, but it was a lot of money for us in those days, to go in a tourist class. So we left. I think Baba had already left with the women mandali and men mandali, and we left a little later on to be in London when they came to London. And we left at Baba had this accident in May, didn't he? And we left at the end of May. And it takes 13 days, in the ship. So my traveling had begun, Then I realized Baba had started me on my journey to the West. And I went on the ship. It was fun. It was really one of the best visits, I had. And we got to London, and we were there for not barely a week when we heard the news that Baba had an accident. Dr. Donkin sent us a cable, and that Baba had asked us to leave immediately. So we just come, and we've got to go back again, in a week's time. And it was the height of the season, tourist season, people going to India and all that. And so anyway, we said we have to obey Baba's orders. So we went to the shipping companies, all the shipping companies, gave us such looks, showed us long waiting lists, and you won't get anything till August. And I said, oh dear, what are we going to do? And we must have made countless trips to every shipping company. Finally, it dawned on us, it's up to Baba. If he wants us to go away from London, it'll happen, So we went to the piano shipping company. The man was completely, he was so angry with us. He said, look, I've got 6 pages of waiting list here. You won't get any berth till August. So I insisted. I said, just put our name down, please, whatever it is. And so he put our names down. And I was a little,
First class, second class.
Yeah, that's what he said. Sent a message. Go first class, second class, tourist class, freight class, luggage class, whatever class you can get. So anyway, we put our name down, and I was worried. Adi was pretty nonchalant. He said, well, if Baba wants us to go, we'll go, you know. And I was worried. I said, why are we not obeying Baba's order? Anyway, next morning, the lady we were staying with in bed and breakfast, she calls me. She said, Franey, there's a phone call from the piano company. I said, what? She said, yes, he wants you. I said, okay. And I went to the phone, and he said, well, there's 2 first-class berths going in 10 days' time. So can we book you for that? 2 first class. So Baba at least helped us in going first class instead of the freight class and the whatever class. So anyway, we booked ourselves down for the first class Stratheden. But this is what he does. Miracles happen. He says he doesn't perform them. And so Adi felt a little bit guilty. He said, look, I brought you here only for a week. You haven't seen anything of Europe. He said, look, I'll call Anita VAR, and at least we can go to Paris. We can see Paris for 4 days. So he phoned her up, and she and Roger were very sweet. They had an American Baba friend who was a guide, a tourist guide, living in a hotel near the Arc de Triomphe. And so they arranged that she should take us around Paris because she was a tour guide. And so we flew. In those days, the flight to Orly Airport in Paris was £10 round trip. £10, which was a lot of money for that time too. But anyway, we had that little surplus, so we thought, why not utilize it? So it was 4 days and 4 nights hectic. I never slept. I was awake all night. Every place I wanted to go and see. We went to Versailles, we went, saw the museums. This woman was exceptionally so, I've seen Baba as a fast walker. This woman, I think, compares with him. Because she would take me through traffic, and I was in a sari, and take me through traffic, Parisian traffic, walking. And we saw quite a bit of Paris. So I felt good that I could at least tell my family I saw a bit of Europe and a little bit of London. And so we had to come back home again. Now, leaving London, I felt a little sad because I always, liked England because I was in an English school and I had this feeling for England always. Mehera liked the English. So we came back and we settled in Pune for a bit because I wanted to stay away from Ahmednagar. I've been there so much, surrounded by my family members. I wanted to be away from them a little. So we stayed in Pune, and Bilu's children and Dara stayed with us when they went to school. And that lasted about 2 years. And I was getting edgy. I wanted to go back to England or Europe or something. And we heard that Francis Brabazon and Don Stevens were coming to India to visit Baba the first time. So Baba asked Adi and I to be host and hostess to them at Meherabad, which we did, and we got to know Francis very well and Don very well, and for a week, 10 days, and the topic arose, Adi asked Don, is it easy for Indians to go to Europe, America? And Don said, yes, if there's a sponsor, somebody who can sponsor you, you can go to America. So he was willing to do that for us. So Adi approached Baba, because he knew I wanted to go to England. I wanted to go to the West. So Adi approached Baba and said, look, Baba, Franey wants to be away from home. She's been so claustrophobic with the family all the time. She wants to be on her own. And Don Stevens has offered to sponsor us. He said, no, if you want to go anywhere, go to England. So America was out, and so he England, there was no problem because Indians were allowed. So that's how we, decided to come to England. And we had planned to leave, excuse me, we had planned to leave the year of 1955, August. Everything we booked, we put a deposit down on two berths, and we packed everything, put everything in storage, sold whatever we had, left everything at my parents' house, because we were going to see if we liked it and then decide if we were going to stay there. And everything was done, and then just about 10 days before we were due to leave, we had a message. No, Adi was called to Satara. Baba wanted him, although he was in seclusion. And so Adi left, and he came back after a few days and he said, Baba said, we have to cancel. Cancel. So we had to cancel. We lost all our money. The deposit money. He said he'll let us know when we can go. So now the dilemma was all our stuff packed away. Where do we live? Where do we move? We stayed in my parents' house for about 4 weeks, and that's about too much for Adi also, so. And he said out of the blue, he said, would you like to have a baby? And I said, Baba, if you want me to have one. And Baba said, we'll think about it. I'll think about it. So, I just left it at that. But I was really concerned, and my time was running after we said goodbye to Baba, and Adi was hoping that I wouldn't find work so that we could go back to India. And I didn't want to go back. Whatever the hardships I'd suffered, I still wanted to live in England, I was an independent spirit here, I didn't have my family sort of around me. It was nice to see them, and I wanted to see them. And so when we said goodbye to Baba, he again told me the same thing, and we saw him off at the airport, and he left, and time passed, and it was getting near the time when he said we had to go to India. I had only 2 more interviews. I'd gone through all the newspaper ads and couldn't find anything. All the places had been taken. And I had only these 2 last interviews. And I said, oh, well, if Baba wants me to get a job, he'll get me. I didn't do anything. Then I was, to earn a little money and experience, I used to give Minta, Delia's younger sister, Minta, massage and beauty treatments, and she would pay me a little. And then she told me, she said, Franey, why do you go in a sari? Go in a dress, have your hair cut. That might make people think you're from Europe. I said, okay, all right. And so I went to a hairdresser, and my hair was long, and I had it cut absolutely short. And so I had a nice suit. I didn't have too many clothes. So I went to this second last interview, as Minta told me to go. Unfortunately, they had already taken somebody, so that was out. And a few days later, I had to go to my last interview. And I was nervous. I was really nervous and apprehensive. I didn't know what to do. But I just thought of Baba. I said, if Baba wants me to stay, I'm sure whatever happens, something will come up. And I went, and it was in a very elite area, Knightsbridge, where all the royal family shop. There was this big salon. And I went up there, and I saw a long queue. I said, oh, I'll never get in. I won't be seen even if the queue is outside the doorway. And I said, my hopes all shattered, and I just sat there waiting, and there were all these very young people ahead of me, and beautiful young girls. And, the man came, took everyone, and I said, I was worried. But, the line was shrinking a bit, and I was getting inside. I thought, well, that's something. I'm moving inside. So, when the girl next to me went, I said, oh, well, I'm sure he's chosen somebody by now. And she came back. And then I went in, and he asked me a few questions, and I answered them, and then he said, well, when can you come? That was completely, I was so bowled over. I couldn't believe my eyes that Baba could do that, I said, and he said, when can you come? I said, well, I can't come today or tomorrow. I said, give me some time. But I said, can I ask you a question? He said, go ahead. I said, you never asked me where I come from. So he said, why do I want to know? He said, well, everywhere else they asked, He said, well, to me you look either Greek, Italian, wherever, I don't mind, wherever you're from. I said, well, I'm from India, Persian. He said, well, that doesn't matter to me, So that was again Baba's grace. With all the number of people ahead of me, I didn't think I would ever get in there. So Baba really did want me to stay on in England. And he granted my wish, and of course I told Adi, I said, all the times he never came to pick me up. I said, now you pick me up in case I don't get the job. Because that was the final interview, and he did come. And when he saw my smiling face, he said, oh well, I've got to stick on, I've got to stick on. And no sooner, I went for the work. I was there for about 2.5 months, and I was feeling a little bit peevish. Didn't know what was wrong with me. Luckily, we were staying at Minta's house in her basement, and she had introduced us to her doctor, so he was round the corner. So Adi took me there to the doctor. And I went in, and the doctor examined me and all. And after a little while, he called me in, and he said, I said, well, what's the matter? Why am I feeling? He said, Mrs. Irani, you're having a baby. And all this happened in the matter of these few months, So I said, no, I can't be having a baby. I just started work. I said, now what am I going to tell my boss? Oh my God, I said, he'll be completely taken aback. And so I spoke to my receptionist, and I told her, I said, what do I do? She said, keep quiet for a little while. So I worked for 7.5 months, and then I told him. And he was nice. He was very nice. So Baba did both the things, that he said he would do. One year, out of his own volition, he asked me whether I wanted a baby, which he gave me my daughter. And so here I am with my daughter, but he does give you all the challenges of life. We have no preferential treatment. In fact, we get the worst treatment. And you all must have heard about Shireen's health. 2.5 years ago, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. It was very, very overwhelming and painful for me. That Baba was there. He picked me up, he put me, told me he'd be there for me. And my Shireen's here, thank Baba. And it's a hard life, but the thing I did when I knew the diagnosis, the first thing I did, that I had to be brave for her. I had to be brave for her. There was no way out. If I collapse, she collapses. So the first thing I did, I went to the garland that I had that was on Baba's body, and I prayed to him. I said, she's in your hands. You told me to look after her, but you told me that she means more to you than to me. And I said, now you look after her. And I said, she's in your hands now. And I left it at that, and she's in his hand because he's looking after her, and he's looking after all of us. But that was a sidestep. But anyway, Shireen's told you about the wedding incident, but I'll mention the other incident in the wedding. When it was announced that Dara was getting married to Amrit, we wanted to go in the summer months so that we could be with Baba a longer time, not December. So Adi made me write a letter to Mani. And I didn't want to write, but Adi made me write. I felt that I shouldn't have written that letter asking Baba for our preference to change the time and the wedding day. But anyway, I wrote to Mani, and I said, look Mani, we're selfish, we want to be with Baba and you all for a longer time. So, and Shireen doesn't get a long holiday during the Christmas break. We want to be with Baba and you all. So can't we postpone the wedding till June or July, when Shireen has a summer break? And the answer came back, no. Wedding in December or no wedding. I was so, oh God, it frightened me. I said, what have I put my foot into? I was angry. Baba was angry with me. But no, Mani said Baba wasn't angry, but he said there would be no wedding if it was in June, July, because Baba knew he wasn't going to be there. And so this is what, when he says something, you have to just stick to his word, whatever he orders. And so we all went for the wedding, and it was a very poignant time, really. Despite his illness, Baba looked so radiant on the day of Mehera's birthday and Amrit and Dara's engagement. I can't describe it. He looked radiant. He was rubbing his chest a bit, but I could see a halo around his head. We were all, and Mehera came out that time, Mehera was open to the men folk. But I believe my husband told me that Baba first showed my husband to Mehera before he showed the Mangli men. Adi was there in '68, so Mehera was called, Adi was called to meet Mehera, and I think my husband wrote a poem for Mehera as well, which I have somewhere, I haven't got it here. Everything is in storage in my place. So anyway, Mehera was so radiant, amongst the crowd, and first time to be in the public arena. And we were sitting by her, and I was watching Baba, and Baba was so concerned for Mehera. Somebody had to have an umbrella on her all the time. Despite his ailing health, he would see somebody without a hat, way out there, put your hat on, But he looked absolutely beautiful, radiant. And then when we used to greet him in his bedroom, he looked so frail, very frail, but still, he had the smiling face, his cheeks were lively, and greeting him, you still didn't feel the frailness because he had that strength. But I was always trying to be gentle because I felt, his body must hurt so much. And then, after, as you've seen the wedding pictures, they were, it was a very good reception, and everything went so perfectly as planned. And then Mani told me that Baba had whispered into her ear that when Shireen got married, Baba wanted Shireen's wedding reception to be the same in Mehera's house, So he had prepared Mani that beforehand to let her know that when Shireen ever got married, that her reception will be at Mehera's house too, which we did have in 1980 when she got married. And so the wedding passed, and the time when Baba was ill, we saw him a few times, and anyway, he's not looking at me for the time. All right. So anyway, time came for us to say goodbye to Baba. And I remember it very well. It was the 9th of January. We had to take off on the plane on the 11th. And each of us all went in turn to say goodbye. And Erich was there. And Erich, when he saw me, he said, "Do you want me to go? You want to say something private to Baba?" I said, "No, Erich, Baba knows everything. What have I got private to say? You know, he knows everything." And Baba said, "Yes, I know everything, and I know everything about everyone." And so then he told me, he said, "When you leave here, you're not to cry. You've got to be happy. And I'll come to you whenever you need me. You call me, I'll be there." And I know he's there. And I said, "Yes, Baba, of course I'll call you. I'll need you all the time. I know I will." And so he said, he said after that, he said, "Everybody will know after the end of the month what's going to happen." And I was glad that Erich was there, because nobody would have believed me. End of the month was when he dropped his body, January 31st. And I still remember that. And then I embraced him, he patted me on my head, and he said, "Don't worry, I'll be with you always. Look after Shireen." And we were left, and as Shireen told you, the day of the departure, when we went on the plane and the plane was airborne, she burst out crying. I said, "Why are you crying?" She said, "Well, I won't be seeing Baba again." I said, "Of course you'll see Baba again." She said, "No, I don't think I'll see Baba again." And sure enough, in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we heard the news. So that's how it is. And she told you about the mastering servitude. But then Adi brought back Baba's garland from his body before it was entombed. And that's another story. And he brought it back naturally, flowers and insects get to flowers. So he went to Kew Gardens, the best botanical gardens in London, where they treat plants so that pests don't get at it. So he went there, and the man was very nice. He said, "Look, I'm afraid we don't do anything for the public, He said, "I'm really sorry." And so Adi was a little sad and turned around to go leave, and he was just about to open the door when the man called him back. And he said, "Mr. Irani, come back. I feel this is for somebody strong, somebody important, a great man. I'm going to do it free for you." And so he did it free, and then Adi brought it to me, and I have it on, sort of embroidered it onto a velvet, and it's hanging in my living room. Adi only wanted the first 4 emblems, so I've done only the 4 emblems at first. The 2 others were put on afterwards. So anyway, that's one nice story. And what else was there?
Could you tell us, since Shireen went into nursing Baba as a baby?
Oh, as a baby. Oh, that. Oh, I forgot. Sorry. Yes, when she was born, she was 3 months old, and I wanted her to see Baba. Take her to Baba, and for him to see her. And of course, I also wanted my parents to see her. So she was 3 months old. We arrived in India. My mother, I stayed with my parents, and then Baba. I met Baba the first time he was going on a mast tour So he called me to Adi Senior's office with Shireen. So he saw her then just briefly, he touched her head, and then he said, when I come back, I'll call you. And so when he came back from the tour, he sent a message that he wanted to see me in Shireen at the Monday Hall. And so I took Shireen as a 3-month baby, and she was a 3-month baby, but she was huge. She was 8 months, really. And anyway, I took her in, and Baba was seated there, and Goher and Mani were there only. Mehera wasn't there. None of the women Mandi. And Baba said, give her to me, and I forgot to put any mat or anything on his lap. I was so worried. So I put her on his lap, and usually when I first took her, she met any of my family men who had moustaches or anything or beard, she screamed blue murder and cried all the time. And I thought she would do the same with Baba. I was so petrified. But no, she sat on his lap, looked up at him, gazed up at him, smiled, and she was only 3 months old, gurgling away, and he was playing with her for about good 7-8 minutes. He played with her. Mani told me afterwards, she said, I wish I'd brought my camera, because this was something that she'd never seen, that Baba, she was from some previous incarnation. Baba, she had met Baba before. And it was so, and I was worried just for the practical reason that she would wet him, she would do something to him on his lap, But my worry is that. And here, she was so sweet with him. He tickled her, he picked her up, and that was one of the, incredible, and even Mani remarked, she said she's never seen Baba do that to any baby like that, play for so long. And then of course, did you tell them about the message we got when after your no-joke? No, she didn't tell you. When she had a no-joke, I wrote a letter to Mehera, to Baba and Mehera, thanking them for all their loving love and everything. And Baba sent back a lovely message, and wrote a nice message via Mani, and he sent a message dictating to Mani by fingers, which Mani said he's never done for several years to anyone. And he dictated that, Franey, I love you, you love me, be happy. Same with Adi, same with Dara. Then he said, Shireen loves me, I love her. She means more to me than to you and Adi. Look after her and keep her happy. So to this day, I'm trying to keep her happy, but he's giving me all the trials and tribulations. I don't know what to do. So, but anyway, he's there with us, whatever state we are in, and when you all need him, you call him, because he's love. That's what he wants love, and that's so important. That's why he told Shireen what he did. That although she loves him, but she wants her to be happy, and we have to obey his orders, just don't bypass them. I remember when I forgot to say that, whilst I was pregnant and working, he gave us all the followers and the family members order to keep a fast, total fast, not even to swallow a saliva. I was pregnant 6 months, and I was working. And Adi said, oh no, you can bypass it, you expect. No, I said, Baba's orders, I'm going to keep it. And I kept it, but when I went home I passed out. Because, no food, no water, I'm expecting, and no saliva. So, Baba's orders are rigid sometimes, but if you observe them, probably, Jeff, then you're on the path, you reach the 7th plane closer.
certainly don't seem to have an easier way in this life.
Yeah. So, anyway, my goal is not to reach the 7th plane or anything. I just want to be with Baba, you know. Well, am I finished at the right time? Can I read one message that was sent out, which I think is very appropriate message of Baba's. Adi Senior sent out on Baba's 75th birthday after he dropped his body. This is Avatar MeherBaba's message on the occasion of his 75th birthday, 25th February 1969. To love me for what I may give you is not loving me at all. To sacrifice anything in my cause to gain something for yourself is like a blind man sacrificing his eyes for sight. I am the divine beloved, worthy of being loved because I am love. He who loves me because of this will be blessed with unlimited sight and will see me as I am. Jai Baba.